Hi, everyone. I'm just adding some more folks into our meeting webinar for today. So we'll get started in about 2 more minutes at 4. Okay, hi, everyone. Welcome. So happy you all joined for this afternoon's webinar. I'll admit some folks as they come in, but we'll go on ahead and get started. So there is a recording here in progress, and so we will share this recording after, not only in our internships newsletter, but also on our website, and we'll share it with students who may be interested in hearing from our panelists who will be talking about their experiences at Environment for the Americas. So we'll have 5 different interns, current or former interns, that interned with us, share from a few different programs. And again, my name is Stephanie. If I haven't met you yet, or if you weren't on the first call, my name is Stephanie Darden. I'm the recruitment and internship lead here at Environment for the Americas, based in Boulder, Colorado. So if you apply, I not only receive your applications through our applicant tracking system, but I help with some of our internship managers who recruit for these programs. So I'm always open to questions and happy to share more. But with that, we'll have our first panelist go. And I believe, Trey, you'll be up. So I'll just share my screen and I'll have your presentation.
Alrighty, sounds good.
All right, can everyone see the PowerPoint? Okay, perfect. Trey, take it away.
Okay. All right, so just a little introduction for who I am. My name is Trey Aviles. I had actually just completed the Environment for the Americas internship. It was overall a really amazing experience, and just it let me get my foot in the door and get a lot of experience that I wouldn't have been able to otherwise. So I'm really thankful for it. I volunteered or interned with the Golden Gate National Recreation Area, which is a National Park Service. We're based pretty close to San Francisco. So we did a lot of our work on the north side of the Golden Gate Bridge in Marin County. And there was a old growth of redwoods, as you see in the background. This is Muir Woods over here. And yeah, some work even in San Francisco with the urban setting and all around the area. So lots of cool stuff. Yeah, this is just a little slideshow of what I've done this year. So I'm going to the next slide. Okay. So what does it look like being a habitat restoration worker? And my position was primarily focused on vegetation management. But you're able to go along with the other teams, which is wildlife and water quality, stuff like that. So you get, a good, well-rounded experience. But the majority of the work is habitat restoration with plants. So I had an 11-month internship, all 4 seasons. It was a lot of new stuff. So learning how to, learning some Latin. I didn't really know much Latin before, and I wouldn't really call myself a botanist. I like plants and I love flowers, and stuff like that. But coming into this internship, I did not know Latin at all. I avoided those classes in college. You learn a lot of that on this job. Um, Doing a lot of planting native plants, surveying for native plants, rare species all throughout the watershed. You get to go places that other people just don't get to go to. Um, I got to explore process-based restoration, which I'll get into that a little bit later. Translocated these butterflies, which I have in the pictures, the endangered mission blue butterfly, and pulled lots of weeds. So, yeah. So we can go next slide. And these are just some funny pictures that I got over the course of the year of National Park Service employees. One on the left corner laying in the sunlight because it was really cold in the woods, and the other one's stretching, and me climbing a tree. I know EFTA probably wasn't very happy if they once they saw that picture, but everything was safe. It just looks like I'm a lot higher. And then there's one picture of me holding salmon where we actually introduced um, coho salmon into the stream Redwood Creek in your woods, and they're an endangered species of salmon. So it's cool to see like these efforts going in because we're over here building habitat for them, while the fish team, wildlife team are they're having them grown at a hatchery and actually putting them into the creek. So you get to be a part of all the fun things. Go next slide. And this is just some of the stuff that we did for planting. That's the team on the left-hand side. In the middle, we just have a couple of different stakes. So they're live stakes. We would go cut them off of elderberry or thimbleberry and have 3 or 4 nodes. And we would actually just go stick them right in the ground and they would hopefully form roots and start growing. And then those are all nursery plants on the right side. Next slide. And just a few significant photos that to really stress like all the beautiful places and things that you get to see. One on the left hand side, that's one of our vegetation leads. He just looks really fierce in the photo, so I like to include that one. Um, and yeah, mission blue butterfly in the middle, and then just a cool egret, great white egret on the right side. So this is a cool job because your workplace it's different every day. You get to see things that other people don't get to see that are way off trail through many different seasons, and it's really beautiful to see the landscape change over time. Go next slide. Just a few more significant photos. The big photo is actually, I think, like within my first week or two, and the team that I was going to be working with, they're like, "Hey, let's take a hike and let's show you everywhere that you're going to be working," which I thought was a great introduction. You could look at all these places on maps and you're like, okay, we're going to work here and work there, but to actually go walk the landscape was, I think, a good way to really welcome people in. And then that is the intern team and the smaller photo where we went out catching the mission blue butterflies. Um, like who can say their job is to run around with a butterfly net catching butterflies? It's pretty sweet, I gotta say. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is the big part, one of the big things I was really interested in for this internship, and it's process-based restoration. This is just a definition of it, but it's a holistic approach to restoring degraded watersheds that aims to reestablish keystone processes such as sediment transport, carbon sequestration, nutrient cycling, and fire resiliency. We were actually doing one for salmon habitats, but it has a lot of these same things like helping raise the water table, slow water velocity, and whatnot. So we'll go to the next slide, and then these will be some of the pictures of this big project that we did. So we were building PALs, which are known as post, or it's an acronym for post-assisted log structures. It's kind of similar to beaver dam analogs. I know those are getting a little bit more popular. We unfortunately don't have beavers in Muir Woods, and it's kind of tricky to bring them back. So we are building habitat for the salmon that would naturally be there. Um, and it pretty much slows the water. It makes like these deep pools so the salmon can have colder water during the summer, and also they're not as likely to be like flushed out by high velocity flows during the winter. So yeah, we're just gonna go through this little slideshow, but so you can go to the next slide. But yeah, a lot of this stuff we were getting giant logs, and we couldn't cut redwoods because redwoods are we want to keep them there. So we're getting Douglas fir from much higher up on the mountain, and then finding a way how the heck are we going to bring these all the way down into the creek? But it took a little while, and it took a lot of people working together um, and hauling these logs, leading them into place. And we'll go to the next slide. So yeah, this is us now making these structures, the post-assisted log structures or PALs. And we would just kind of weave them together, and they're kind of anchored on the stream and then sticking out into the water. I mean, on the stream bed and sticking out into the water. But they all look different for different areas and how the water was moving. And we had the hydrology specialists and kind of big project planner. She just recently retired, but she was the one who kind of organized this for us. And we're the ones that put it all together. So we'll go next slide. And now we're just pretty much putting in these posts to secure all the wood that we got into the creek, which is quite fun to do. Sometimes it goes in pretty easy and sometimes it doesn't. Keep going. Sorry, yeah, next slide. And just another thing to this is a finished project, but in the background we have a lot of planting sites that were pretty disturbed from a previous project where they were putting wood back into the stream. And yeah, we filled it in with a lot of native plants. So a lot of these ground covers, while I don't have photos of like the before, I have seen them and it's pretty barren in a lot of these areas. So it's just cool having like, okay, we worked in these sites, we planted stuff in the ground. Now we're building structure for salmon and just everything coming together. It's a really rewarding job. And next slide, please. Okay, so just a few tips for interns coming into this job, things that I think will help you get farther. So speak to your supervisors, speak to your colleagues, your other interns as well. Like if they are doing stuff that's interesting to you, ask if you can tag along. Um, what are the things that you're interested in trying and learning? Because since this is an internship, this is your chance to go out and experience new things. um yeah, if there's certain projects going on, even if they're with other teams, like express that you're interested in that so that your lead can put you there. In my experience, the entire natural resources department wants to put people in places that they're interested in learning, despite if that is your exact position. So we're lucky that we had natural resources, which encompassed vegetation, wildlife, and a whole bunch of different things. I'm not sure of every program, but yeah, if you get a chance to tag along, go do it, go learn more. Yeah, go along with the other interns. There will be trainings offered and volunteer events and just things that come up. Sign up for everything you want to do or you want ever wanted to try because this is your chance to do it. And yeah, my team was always really good about bringing a lot of extra snacks too because it is hard work. So bring a lot of snacks. um, yeah, and then next slide. Just want to say thank you. I hope that people who are getting into this internship are excited about it because there's just a lot of cool opportunities here with environment for the Americas. And this picture here is actually where we got to live for 11 months. Um, about 2 minute walk to the ocean, that's the Pacific Ocean, and a lagoon right there. Pelicans coming in, landing in that lagoon at nighttime. It was a really beautiful opportunity. So yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Trey, for sharing. And GoGo is an amazing program. It's year long, it's full time. So, this program is specifically geared towards individuals who are no longer in college or are wanting some more advanced work within conservation. So, appreciate all you did, Trey, and thank you for sharing your experience. Next, we will have, let me see. Robert Weber, he was in our Fish and Feathers program. and I will go on ahead and share my slides for that.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I hope you can hear me well. My name is Robert Weber. I was with Fish and Feathers. It's a primarily interpretation education based program. I was with them for 2 years. As you can see, very different haircut, no facial hair there, facial hair now. Uh, been with them for a minute, two mini seasons basically. At my first year, I worked with Everglades primarily, and then every weekend I would work in Biscayne National Park as well. And my second year, I worked at Glen Canyon National Recreation Area out in Arizona. So very different places. And yeah, fun fact, that photo right there is me holding a white-breasted nuthatch at Estes Park in Colorado, where the Fish and Feathers internship takes you there for a week. And it's a wonderful experience, absolutely amazing. And yeah, next slide. So, just a bit about me and what my I'm trying to paint a picture of what my resume looked like before I applied the first time um, in to Fish and Feathers. I graduated in 2025, so I didn't have this the first time. I was still a college student, but I graduated with a BS in biology, so bachelor's in science. My hobbies are birding, photography, and hiking. I made sure, like for example, I volunteered at a banding station, put that on my resume. I hiked a lot. Yes, you can put that in your resume. You literally can put that you hike a lot in your resume. And if you have a logbook of trails that you've done, that can also be on your resume. And I just do photography. I just put that because I like this photo that I took of burrowing owls. It's amazing. I am born and raised in Miami, Florida, so I went to Florida International University, and I speak four languages: English, Spanish, German, and ASL. All super, super useful skills in interp and education. You don't need to learn multiple languages, but it only helps, right? Especially Spanish, that's a big one, and French, weirdly enough. Especially in the West, French is really useful. Next slide, please. So I put together a couple of photos of my experiences. Yeah, I did a lot. So you can see everything except for the bottom row of images, the fossil, and obviously the Arizona photos. That was all in Everglades National Park or Biscayne National Park. With Everglades National Park, my first time there, it was the off season, so in the summer. Everglades is a winter park. And so I spent less time doing programs or yeah, like executing programs, and I spent more time creating them. So the top left photo is one of the rare times that I got to do that, which was super awesome. It was a library, and it was my first time doing it. Didn't go great, or it went great, but not perfect. I'm a perfectionist. Um, and I have some sea turtle experience as well. I got to hang around with the natural resources team. Literally, I went to my supervisor day one and I was like, hey, I'm really interested in being a wildlife biologist. Let me, or please, if there are any experiences that I can do that are somewhat adjacent, I'm a birder. So, sea turtles, not the same thing, but still cool. Still an experience that I can put on my resume and I definitely have. And so yeah, I did it. On the right is all the way on the right is me putting on my shoes for a school group out in Biscayne National Park. That I put like boat safety on my resume, and I put like some canoeing experience as well. As you can see on the bottom, I was literally told in that photo, we were learning how to rescue a flipped canoe, and I was told to hang off the canoe like a monkey, literally quote unquote. So yeah, and that's what I did. Now on to Glen Canyon experience. I had a vastly different experience there. I worked primarily in interpretation. Education and interpretation are a little different, but they're very similar. Interpretation is talking to the general public, while education is essentially talking to school groups. So I talked to visitors, tourists, people that are from the area, whatever. But I also got to like do really cool things, like participate in a paleontological dig. I camped out one whole night with a paleontologist from Grand Staircase. Amazing time, and I dug up a bone. That is a rib, everybody. So that is awesome, and I get to put that on my resume that I have back or that I have overnight experience, and that I have some natural resource experience with some strenuous work. Yeah, digging bones out is actually not that easy. And then the photo after that is just me doing some interpretation on some dinosaur tracks. And then after that is me volunteering with the Peregrine Fund that works with California condors over there. And I did some telemetry work, which is awesome. And I definitely put that on my experience as a wannabe ornithologist, wildlife biologist. Telemetry work is massive in the field. It's slowly getting faded out, but right now it's still good. And so I put that in my resume for sure. Next slide, please. And I don't know if you could tell, but I am right now working at the Everglades. I am a park ranger. I have my own badge right here. I'm working as a GS7 park ranger, and I got this position only because of my networking at the Everglades. So, yeah, networking super important. Being kind to your bosses and working hard super important. What did I learn? What did I take with me? Apart from all the experience I just mentioned, connections. So from the workshop, the 1 week workshop, I still talk to almost everybody that I made good friends with over there. Still keep in touch like probably almost every week. They're all wanting to be in the park service, and so it's a really good way to network, make connections, and make friends too. I also learned how to live away from home. Internships are great because they give you a lot of work experience, but living away from home is a big challenge for a lot of parkies, I guess. Um, for me, I had, beautiful canyons to look at in Arizona. So I was like, man, I kind of miss my dog, but there's a stupidly gorgeous canyon right in front of me, so I really didn't care to be honest. I was so amazed, so awestruck with Arizona. It was awesome. Very underrated state. New passion ideas for other careers. I never considered wanting to be a teacher, never considered being an educator. That's what I'm doing right now. And I love it. It's amazing. You get to be very silly. And I never would have considered that career if it wasn't for this internship. I was gung ho for the wildlife biologist, and in a way, I still am. But right now, I'm enjoying my job, enjoying this line of work. Um, so, yeah, next slide, please. Advice for applicants. So, Glen Canyon was not one of my first parks that I chose. I chose like Rocky Mountain, Acadia, and then one other one I forget. And I was told, man, Acadia and Rocky Mountain are kind of competitive this year. Do you want to pick any other parks to apply to? And I was like, okay, remove Rocky Mountain. Let's keep Acadia, and then I don't really know Glen Canyon. I don't know. It can't. There's canyon in the name. Let's put that. And it was only when I was practicing for my interview, which is super important, by the way, especially for the Park Service, find like cool trails, cool spots that you're passionate about to talk about in the interview. Um, when I did my research, I was like, man, this place is awesome. What the heck? And so that's why I picked it. That's why I picked working at Glen Canyon. And what really helped for Glen Canyon, there wasn't a previous Fish and Feathers intern, but for Everglades there was. And so looking at their blog posts are amazing to look at how the quality of work is. In general, Fish and Feathers is really good about picking their supervisors, and I think EFTA as a whole is. But uh, just looking at how the work is, if it's interesting to you, if the communities that you're reaching out to are interesting to you, um, all that stuff, super, super important to do. And also something else that's super important. I've been highlighting a bunch of super important things. Highlight any customer service and teaching experience and natural or biological science experience. So interpretation, most people think it's like glorified customer service. In a way, it is. At Glen Canyon, I was staffing the visitor desk and doing interpretive programs a lot of the time. But like you really do need that biological science experiment, and that's a way for you to share your passion, and lead like a guided hike, for some visitors, or help a visitor plan a trip, and make like their kind of okay, what would have been an okay vacation into something absolutely memorable, and that was only because of you. You interacting with the public is inherently customer service, but it's so much more with that if you can especially combine it with any natural resource information that you know, and also just a bunch of fun facts about the park that you know. This is a great line of work because you really get to learn about where you work, and you get to connect with lands. Like in the Everglades, we have 2 seasons and it changes during our season. And it's beautiful. It's awesome. And yeah, I hope you understand how cool it is. And I guess if you're watching this, you also understand that it's cool. So I'm talking to the right crowd. But uh, yeah, I don't know if there's another slide. Is there another slide?
I think that might be it, but thank you so
Okay.
much, Robert.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Yes. And just to mention, with our Fish and Feathers program, applications will be opening later this month. Within the next week or so, we typically have 24 positions, and we pretty much narrowed down 24 different parks. So we have some really large ones like Rocky Mountain. We'll do Acadia again, but then we'll have some smaller ones as well. So definitely, as Robert mentioned, check out some of the smaller ones because those two often have a lot of opportunities or are really cool spots. We had Missouri National Recreation River and one in Nebraska, Niobrara National Scenic River, and they did a lot of float trips. They were leading kayak tours, all sorts of different things, but also engaging with the community. So there's really a lot of opportunities for that program.
And
Next, oh,
sorry,
go for it.
Stephanie, if I could add, it's you can also ask during the interview, when you're interviewing with the supervisor, the potential supervisor, what is there to do? That's exactly what I did with Acadia. What opportunities do I have if I go there? The Acadia has great opportunities, but it had less natural resourcey opportunities. And so that's why I picked Glen Canyon over Acadia because they had more opportunities to offer me, but I would have never known if I didn't ask, right?
Perfect. Next, we'll have Adelaide present, and Adelaide was in our Let's Go Birding program. So I'll share your PowerPoint here.
All right. Yeah, so I was in the Let's Go Birding internship. This is me. I was an Indiana Dunes National Park intern. And then I had one co-intern. Her name is Carly. Um, both of us had different specialties when it came to our internship, so it really worked out having two people there. We also had a Fish and Feathers intern who also was interning at Indiana Dunes. And so we were able to kind of work all three of us together, which was really awesome. And we all actually lived together, which worked out really well. This is just our sign outside of the park. It's a pretty small park, and it's one of the only ones in the Midwest. Obviously, there are smaller like recreation areas and such, but this is a really important one in the Midwest, particularly because it is really close to Chicago. It's about 45 minutes outside. You just travel underneath Lake Michigan, and so while it's kind of small and maybe doesn't seem super influential, it is one of the only natural areas and national parks near Chicago in such a big urban area. And so it was kind of like the first opportunity for people to really be exposed to a national park, which was really cool. Just like kind of a crossover of an urban area and a natural area, which was really awesome. Um, yeah, you can go to the next slide. So kind of to start off, um, I think that this was something that I didn't really understand when I started as an intern, and didn't understand like the magnitude of it, but training, I did training with the other Fish and Feathers intern who is here today. But the Let's Go Birding interns all trained together alongside the Fish and Feathers interns in May at Rocky Mountain National Park. This was just such an awesome experience to get to work with other people who you wouldn't have ever met before because we all came together from different parts of the country. And you all have the same interests, and it's just really cool to see how everybody's different pathways are kind of converging. We got to work on skills that we would need for the summer, hear from speakers, kind of figure out what our internship was going to look like. And then for the Let's Go Birding internship in particular, it's a lot of focus on a variety of disabilities. So typically, people who are in the Let's Go Birding internship do have a disability. And so being together as a group allowed us to kind of combine our efforts and kind of see perspectives from different sides so that we could help people at the park that we got placed at, because obviously you're not going to know everything. And so getting training on how to aid with different disabilities, regardless of your experience, was super duper helpful, because you never knew what you were going to run into when you got to your park. This was probably one of my favorite parts of the internship was getting to train all together. It was such an awesome experience. And like you can see in the middle photo there, those are I think that they're the all-terrain wheelchairs, which were from Rocky Mountain National Park. Like there's an outside group that rents these out to people, but they were really cool and we raced them, which was super fun. But like we just did a variety of things every day, kind of learning what different people's experiences were like with disabilities. Yeah, we can go to the next slide. What a day of our internship at Indu looked like. I think it's super important to communicate that everybody's internship was super different. So even though we were Let's Go Birding interns, that was kind of an overarching theme, but you could focus on a lot of different things. Your experience really depended on your supervisors, what resources were already available at your park, um, what you wanted your internship to look like, those kinds of things. Obviously, there were big, like, overarching things we needed to complete, like our research paper, having World Migratory Bird Day. We had a pilot and then an actual one, blogs, those kinds of things. Those were necessary, but then everything else was kind of up to you, your supervisor, and the park itself. So the required things that we had to do through EFTA were attending meetings and webinars with supervisors. So we had like general meetings of checking in on what was going on, how our research was going. Because we were half remote, a lot of our work was on us to get done. Um, and then we would also have speakers, so people who would come in and talk to us about their disabilities or ways that we could work with people with disabilities, or just like professional development. And then working on blogs and EFTA assignments were kind of the things that were required. And then kind of special to Indu, we worked on our program creation and outreach in the park, training with other park seasonals. So when we got there, we had just completed our training with EFTA, and then we got there and they're like, actually, you have 2 more weeks of training, which at the time we were like, oh, no, more training. And then it was actually super duper fun, because we got exposed to so many different parts of the park and the government and like different ways that you could work in the government. Like we did hikes with natural resources and talked to other departments and just kind of got exposed to everything. And that was so much fun. And then we also got connected to the other seasonals. So we had an even bigger plethora of people to talk to and rely on. Tabling, so giving out materials and interpretation. We turned our Let's Go Birding internship into a mixture of World Migratory Bird Day, and then we used tabling about once a week to really do more outreach with just the average guest, which was really awesome because a lot of people didn't know that we had the resources that we did for people with accessibility needs. Working at the Visitor Center and Education Center, we had a VC and then we also had a DC, which was the Douglas Center. The Douglas Center is an education center that focuses really heavily on interpretation, which is really awesome. It's not nearly as popular, but super awesome place to get to work. And we also had animals, which was super fun to do interp with. Aiding in already established programs at Indu. So we had a Mount Baldy hike. So obviously we are the Indiana Dunes, so we have a ton of dunes. You can see that in the photo on the side to the right there, kind of. That dune is like hundreds of feet tall. Technically, you're not supposed to climb it on your own, but when you're with a ranger, you're allowed to. The big thing is that if you step one direction the wrong way, you fall into a pit that's about 20 feet deep. So we aided in that program and kind of helping people up the dune. Roving and hiking trails. this is a big one, just being a ranger is roving and hiking trails and helping people. Um, and kind of generally, we just like were placed when we were in the park doing in-person work, which is about 50% of the time. Um, we kind of just acted as additional rangers, which was really awesome. Um, and then on our days where we were remote, we worked on our personal research and assignments. Typically, we did a lot of outreach during this time. So, um, it was just necessary that we like got more time than other interns to work independently from everybody else. And we were able to work with our supervisors to come up with a consistent set schedule, but it just depends on the park. Um, yeah, we can do next slide. Our accessible programming. Our accessible programming was really up to us on what we wanted to work on, but we decided to actually focus on a variety of different disabilities just to be able to cater to a lot of different people. On the far left, you can see our common birds board. I made that. It's laminated photos of birds, an example of what their feather would look like and feel like. And then underneath is a mnemonic of what they sound like, and name and all those fun things. Um, the textile portion of that was super helpful for some people to kind of learn about birds because sometimes it doesn't cement as well as it does with other people. And so that was super great to bring out with us. The table at the bottom is an example of what our tabling looked like. On the far left, you can see our birding boards. So typically that's used for people who are nonverbal. They're being held down by our weighted gloves, which are used for people with tremors. They help stabilize. We had glasses that simulated eye diseases, which was really cool for people to see. We had a QR code for the access pass, which is a thing that a lot of people don't know about. We had a bunch of stickers and just normal EFTA things. We had bird flashcards with Braille on them. And then we had a bunch of stuff for ASL, which was super fun. And then this photo is me and my co-intern. Right next to me, you can kind of see like these stacks of things. And those are the pamphlets that I had made. They are very comprehensive, basically about like accessibility in the park and birds in the park, and just like we wanted to increase accessibility to everybody, not just in our programming. So kind of improving the park's general accessibility. Yeah, we can go to the next. Living on site. This was another thing that I really wasn't sure about when I became an intern, was like what that was going to look like. And that's mostly because it's different for every person, and we were the first Indu interns there for Let's Go Birding. But we lived 2 minutes away from the VC, very quick drive. We could walk, but it was a highway, so we did not. I lived with 5 other girls. Some had a roommate, some did not. But at least for us as Let's Go Birding interns, our housing was paid for. It just depends on how expensive your housing is in the area. I know that the people in DC, it's just like egregious how expensive it is, and so they had to figure out some kind of other arrangement. We had a really nice kitchen, a living room, and 2 bathrooms. I loved living in the woods and having time with the girls. You can see like up in the top left corner is all of the Indu staff. We would have bonfire nights, which was so fun. They have dogs, so we just kind of just got like to hang out outside of work. And then on the bottom is our fire pit at our house. We used to have hot dogs and s'mores all the time. Generally, we just got along really well, and it was a really awesome opportunity to just live with people that you get along with so easily because you have the same interests. So, yeah, we can go to the next slide. Things to consider. Depending on your site, your involvement will be different. Our involvement was super duper high in comparison to other places, but like the Rocky Mountain interns worked so much that like they sometimes couldn't attend webinars kind of situation. It just depended on what your park needed and your communication with your supervisor on what you were able to handle. Um, while it can be adapted to fit your needs, kind of like the entire point of the internship, hiking or walking may be expected, or you may be outside for prolonged periods. This is me on the left cutting poison ivy, which was not the best idea. But we had some trail issues, and so we needed to help with trail maintenance. And then we have a bunch of hiking up and down the dunes, and we were trail monitors as well, so it was a lot of hiking at times. And so it's just like important to communicate with the people around you what you need and can handle. Um, your program at your site is yours to create. So it kind of just depends on, while you rely on your EFTA supervisors, it's really self-led and independent. That also means that you are responsible for a lot of your work to get done. Especially for our internship, we had a 30-page paper at the end, and then a 70-page guidebook, and then a 60-page resource book. It sounds daunting, but by the end of the summer, it really just came together easily. Um, so like just keep in mind that that's something you may have to work on. And then you may not just be working with birds all the time. We also helped with the Fish and Feathers program and helping the NPS in general. So that was really cool, just to kind of get like an idea of everything. And that's, I think, the last slide.
Yes, that's the last one. Thank you so much, Adelaide.
Yeah.
So, and I'll share a little bit. Let's Go Birding applications will also open pretty soon as well. Next, we'll have Itzel, who will talk about the Latino Heritage Internship Program. And I'll share your slides here.
All right, they're not showing on my end so far. Okay, there we go. Never mind. All right, well, hi everyone. My name is Itzel Verdin, and I was an intern at the Delaware Water Gap National Recreation Area as a part of the Latino Heritage Internship Program, or the LHIP program. My 12 weeks actually just ended in the beginning of this month, so I was there from September to December. And next slide. All right. So a little bit about me. You know my name now. I am from Texas, and I did recently graduate this year with my BA in history. So that's a little bit about my background. And to be more specific, I was an interpretation ambassador at the Delaware Water Gap slash Spanish translator. So I was a part of the interpretation department, but my work focused mainly on creating Spanish translations and interacting with Spanish-speaking visitors. Um, and then a little bit more about my background. So I noticed some other people were talking about like the interviewing process, so I thought I might add some of that on as well. Um, Prior to this on my resume, I only had one other internship, and that was with the museum, since I do have that background in history, and as well as some work that I did with some professors. So nothing super substantial on that end. And when interviewing, I was actually asked a lot about my volunteer experience working with kindergartners in a bilingual classroom, because I've been doing that for a few years. So just to give y'all a better idea. But next slide, please. So my tasks consisted of outreach, translation, and the LHIP responsibilities. And there is a picture of me with Sophia and one of the EFTA ambassadors, Tatiana. Um, so for outreach, we did tabling events, volunteer celebrations, and a lot of social media content. Um, to be more specific, at tabling events, like the photo I have there, that was at Kittatinny Point at the park, and which is a beach area, and that was a Leave No Trace pop-up. So just educating people on what Leave No Trace means and having games for them to play and things like that, and pamphlets for them to take with them and volunteer celebrations to touch a little bit more on that. Just to celebrate our volunteers. That was actually my first week at the DIWA is what it's called in short. My first week there, there was a, I believe 60 years, Sophia, I believe 60 years anniversary for the volunteers, and as a part of the inter department, and as a Spanish translator, I created a poem, not created, but I translated a poem from a Nahua poet in the 15th century Mexico, and I thought it related heavily to the volunteers. So I translated that to English so that the entire interpretation department could be a part of it. So that's another example of the kind of outreach that I was doing over there. And social media, creating bilingual social media posts, translating the captions for social media posts. One of my favorites that I did was with the help of Sophia, she recorded me reading along a book in the park. It was a ranger book, Know Your Parks or Conozcas tus parques. So just having that bilingual reading for them to post online to interact with the Spanish-speaking children. And then again for translations, so a lot of that was the social media aspects, but I also was there providing and improving upon bilingual services, English to Spanish to be specific, and creating tools for the Rangers. So um, some of the things that I was doing was I actually have right here one of my deliverables. This is a bilingual pocketbook that I made for the park. So this started with um, just going around and asking the rangers, what are some common safety phrases that you need me to translate for you? What do you find yourself needing a lot to communicate with the visitors? Because there wasn't really a lot of Spanish-speaking rangers there. And in Diwa, there's a lot of places that you don't have cell signal or it's not strong enough to be able to use your phone to do translations. So I thought that this would be something easy for them to carry, something very small, pocket-sized. Um, and so I started with collecting those phrases and just creating simple translations, hello, goodbye, left, right, directional phrases. I'm sure you guys can't see this. You're just gonna have to trust me. And then on each page, it would have the English on top, Spanish on bottom for what the sentence is. So for example, this one is, hello, I am a park ranger. Hola, yo soy guardabosques. So, and then a little photo, non-copyright photo, of course, and just kind of organizing that into color codings and different locations like river safety, trail safety, things like that, and laminating it to make it safe for the rangers to keep on them and hopefully be able to use it for a long time. So that was one of my deliverables for the translations, and what's on the screen, that was the first draft of that. And I also actually did assist with the park police at one point to help them with translating a traffic stop because, again, no cell signal in a lot of places. So they had me come in and help translate between the officer and then the man in the truck who was Spanish speaking. And then for the LHIP responsibilities, so we also had to post blogs every 2 weeks. A blog is expected, just updating what you were doing, how is it going for you, what are some experiences there, and having a lot of photos with that. So taking a lot of photos was something that you always had to keep in mind is that, oh, okay, this would be good for my blog. I could talk about this for my blog. Um, and again, creating those social media posts for both LHIP for their social media and then for DIWA social media. So you did have like kind of two there. And then also working on presentations for LHIP because we did have one big webinar at the end where we all discussed something similar to this, all discussed what we were doing in PowerPoint format. So next slide. And something I thought y'all might be interested in is my housing. And I see that the video didn't come up, and that's okay, but I'll do my best to explain. So it was a two-story home. You can see at the bottom photo that is what the outside of the home looked like. Beautiful, beautiful place in the right off the highway. It was about 30 minutes away from headquarters, so a little bit of a drive in the morning, but nothing crazy. Beautiful drive, just two-lane road, trees everywhere. Beautiful. You could see the river, the Delaware. Um, it was in a semi-secluded area, so other than that highway, the next houses were quite a bit down. But I did have a private room. I did share a bathroom, so there was again 2 stories. There was only two other roommates there when I got there. Sometimes the house is completely full, sometimes it's not. Again, just depends. And so I did share a bathroom, but had my own room, and we also shared the laundry, which was in the basement. So in-house laundry, thankfully. And we had appliances, utensils, and all kitchen necessities were already there. So things like plates, cups, cabinet space, fridges. You were responsible for getting your own food though, and cooking your own food, of course, being considerate, cleaning up after yourself in the kitchen. You have roommates, you're not there by yourself. Um, so that was a little bit about my housing. I don't know if you can see in the photo above, it's not the best photo, but that was my room. It's a lot bigger than that photo looks. Again, furniture was provided, so there was already the mattress, the bed frame, lamp, two tables, and a mirror in there. And dressers were actually built into the wall for my specific housing unit, but I know it's different per unit. But it's completely empty when I got there. I'm not sure how it works for others. So I did have to get my own bedding and things like that. but it was a really great house. It had heating, air conditioning, not much to complain about. And next slide. Oh, oh, there's the video actually. It did load. Okay, well, then you can see if it'll play, maybe. I think, oh, nope, that's okay. You'll just have to use your imagination. Beautiful room. There was a little window with a bench right underneath it. I had a closet as well. It was a lot bigger than it looked in that one photo that you saw. That was only half of the room. Um, but that was the front door. And I did have some problems in the beginning with housing, but it got solved right away. Um, my team was very good about helping me with that. But some big takeaways from this is just that working with this program has been an incredible time in my life. I'm very grateful for the opportunities that they've given me. I was able to make a lot of new memories, meet a lot of new people. I had personally never been up north before, so that's the farthest from Texas, one of the farthest places from Texas I've ever been. And I gained a lot of professional hands-on experience working with the Rangers and working with education and interp and all these different people and the volunteers in the visitor center. And down there is a photo that is actually off the clock. So it was a great experience to meet so many great people who want to hang out outside of work hours and get to know each other and spend time with each other. So it was just an overall incredible experience, and I hope that answered any questions that you guys might have been having.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Itzel. We really appreciate having you as an intern as well and your experience and all that you shared with us today. And then finally, we'll have Sophia, who is also in our LHIP program. So she'll be our last panelist, and then we'll open it up to questions for any of you that have questions for our panelists to answer.
So, can you guys hear me? Because I've been having the worst technical difficulties. Okay, thank gosh. I switched computers 3 times, a whole lot going on to make this setup work. So, I'm glad you can hear me. My name is Sofia Velez. I am another Latino Heritage Internship Program intern, also here at Delaware Water Gap National Recreation Area. So, I was able to work alongside with Itzel. I am still here. I was on a 20-week internship program. So, I started on August 18th was my first official start date. However, everyone else in our cohort had an official start date of what was supposed to be July 28th. A little background into the interview process. When I applied with Environment for the Americas, it was not originally with the LHIP program. I actually didn't even know that that existed. It was for a spot with the Fish and Feathers program in for a location in Florida. I was born and raised in Florida. I wanted to be somewhat near home and near family, so it was going to be up in Pensacola at Gulf Shore National Seashore. And I have a lot of interest in animal and wildlife and a background in horticulture. So I was like, this would be great. So I applied for it, went through the first round of interviews, thought it went well, but I also knew that I had personal conflicts of schedule and timing for the dates of that program, and they weren't able to move forward with me in that, but that was totally fine. And then I went along with my time during the summer. I was on a road trip. And I was in the Northeast visiting some family and friends when EFTA reached out to me on July 1st with the email saying that we needed these positions filled for LHIP. Do you have any interest? And they had a whole bunch of different locations. And I saw DIWA and I fell in love with it. And so I was able to fill one of those roles for them that they needed for the LHIP program. So just keep in mind when you're applying, you can have an interest or a preference. It might lead somewhere else and it might be something even more better and amazing than you would have originally imagined. So just keep an open mind and just be open to try new things, because that's mainly the largest takeaway from this, is that you're going to be able to learn a lot that you probably weren't even expecting. So we can go ahead and move on to the next slide. Um, I Background on the Delaware Water Gap. So what is it? It is a national recreation area. So it's not a national park, but it is in the NPS. It's located on the Delaware River in both Pennsylvania and New Jersey. While the majority of the park is in the New Jersey side of it, we operate out of Pennsylvania. So Bishkill, that's where our headquarters are. That's where my housing is located. And everything is just it's a long corridor as you are, like I said, surrounding that river. And as Excel mentioned, we celebrated our 60th anniversary this year. And commonly referred to as DIWA. It's a great area for recreation, so hiking, camping, fishing, whatever you're into. There's lots that you can do here. Hunting is allowed because it is a recreation area and not a park. So if that's something that you're interested in, hunting season is upon us. So if you're hiking, make sure you're wearing some brightly colored things. And we've also got a lot of wildlife here. You'll see a lot of bald eagles, bears, deers, coyote, foxes. And in the river, there's a bunch of wildlife too. You have eels and eelgrass and river otters, things of that nature. So it's been really awesome, like I said, with my interest in wildlife specifically, being able to see all that out here. We can move on to the next slide. So my personal experience at DIWA, my position was for interpretation ambassador. So working with the interpretation department with those rangers who are here seasonally. And a big thing that you want to keep in mind when you're starting an internship is that the time of year is going to heavily impact what your experience is like. Because if you're coming in right at the beginning of the season and it's like May or June, it's going to be, there's going to be a lot going on. You're jumping into it already full steam ahead. So it is going to be a different experience rather than for us, we had a delayed start to our program. So we didn't end up actually starting, like I said, until August. So it was more towards the end of the summer season. It was a lot calmer. The Rangers were already in their like flow of things. So it was a lot easier for me to get acclimated and adjusted here. And then when Itzel joined, she joined at the beginning of September, right after Labor Day. So Labor Day is pretty much when we say this is the end of the season. It's pretty much from Memorial Day to Labor Day is when the parks are in their full swing of things. So she was able to come in and see things in a different light than you might experience. So just keep that in mind. And I know that there's other things where you can start even earlier in the year during maybe February or March or just like in the early spring. So it might be a little more quiet so you can get settled and acclimated before things pick up. So that's something to keep in mind if your experience is different than something that you were expecting or something that you had heard of in the past. So as interpretation ambassador, I was heavily involved with visitor services, so a lot of pop-ups, tabling events, programs, having educational things for people that were not only interactive and fun, but also would have a source of education for them. You can see there's a photo there of Itzel and I at Festival of Wood, which was during her first weekend tabling here. And we had a neighboring park to us that's also in the NPS is with the Forest Service. So Gray Towers National Historic Site is located just about 30 minutes north of here up in Milford, which has it's home to Gifford Pinchot's summer home, and it's a very beautiful place there. And every year they have a festival there called Festival of Wood, and we were able to table there. We do that every year, and we got out of all of the pop-ups that we had, like to my knowledge, we had the most interactions there, about like over 300 connections made there. So that was really fun and really great for Itzel to also experience the contrast and what a calm, slow day at a beach can look like versus a full swing event that people travel for and really make an effort to come see. And as you all mentioned, like the day-to-day really does change, which keeps it fun. It never gets stale. Honestly, like I've been here full time for maybe like 18 weeks now. I finish up January 5th is going to be my last day here. And I have enjoyed it all so thoroughly. It does not feel like work. It truly is so enjoyable. I love what I do so much. And it's been amazing to have so many different environments. Like when we started the first 2 months, like I'm in headquarters right now. I was never in headquarters. Like all of the computer work and stuff that we had to do for EFTA, I felt so bad because I had no time to get around to it because we were just out in the field. We were out either doing tabling programs or on the river. That's another thing that if you're into water, that was my main thing. I just needed to be near the water. I didn't care what that looked like. Like we were on the river a lot, doing cleanups, maintenance things, kind of keeping an eye on trails, roving. So you're going to be out in the field a lot, but it might not always be that because now it's winter. Things have calmed down a lot more and we spend a lot more time in headquarters in a cerebral place working on the computer, filling out forms documents, doing trainings and things of that matter. So it does change from day to day. It's always going to look a bit different depending on the time of year that it is or if there's events and special things going on. Every year here we have a volunteer appreciation luncheon, which celebrates our volunteers because they honestly are like such a heart and soul of the park here to be able to function. That at most national parks, that's how it is when you're not staffed enough or you just have people in the community that are so involved and want to help. So we host that every year. So when it's all started, we were just literally, that was like the week that it was happening. So we were focused on getting things ready for that. So if you want to go to the next slide, I think there's some photos from some things that I prepared for that. since it was our 60th anniversary. We had like our diamond anniversary, so everything was diamond themed. So I have a background in art, and I wanted to be able to contribute a bit with helping them get the decorations for that. So I went ahead and painted those diamonds that you see there, and we had like a little photo booth going on at the luncheon where people could like stick their heads through it and take pictures. So I painted those. And that was something that it's honestly a whole year in planning for that event, but especially like those 2-3 weeks leading up to it, that's really what you're focusing on, is getting everything ready for that, and then after it, putting everything away and stuff. So that was a big chunk of what the beginning of mine and her internship looked like. And then that sign next to it was from the birthday party that we had for the National Park Service. It celebrated 109 years on August 25th. And this year, like I said, we're celebrating 60 years. So I was able to draw on that chalkboard with chalk markers, which I had never used before, but a little sign to have at our visitor center. And I had the arrowhead and a bald eagle down there, which you can kind of hardly see. But so yeah, and then drew up some other things, an interactive birthday cake that like I decorated and drew like vines and branches on for people to add candles to. So just always want to keep it in mind, like if you have a passion in something, whether it's art or videography or digital marketing, anything that you like to do in your own time, you can most likely find a facet for that in your internship. So for me, I really love making art and painting, drawing, whatever that might include. So I was really happy to not only be able to show that, but it was so wanted and desired of like, oh my gosh, like you can do this. When I was drawing the bald eagles, a man at the who was one of our involved volunteers, he was like, do you do this for a living? I was like, oh my gosh, no, I wish, but it's fun that I get to do it right now at all and have it be for work. So definitely try and get your passions out there. Our supervisor here, Neil Coach is amazing. He absolutely wants to see you guys thrive, and whatever it is that you like feel like passionate about, if there's a facet for that, you are more than welcome and encouraged to get that out into our park. So that's been another really great thing about being here at DWA. And then not just the supervisors being amazing, but our coworkers. When I got here, I was told that it's the best team of people that he's ever worked with, and I was able to experience that for myself, and absolutely can attest to that. It's so true. It's been so amazing working here. Our coworkers are not only great people and great professionally, but they are just so amazing to have in your own personal life outside of this. There's always like an event or something going on. Just this past weekend, we had like a Christmas tree decorating thing at Ranger Martin's house. And then a couple weeks before that, Itzel and I hosted a Friendsgiving at her house, which was so beautiful. I wish we would have put photos of it in here, but it was really awesome. It was really sweet. And then like a month before that, we had another just event. So it's always nice being able to spend time with your coworkers outside of work and be able to build those professional and personal bonds as well. Next slide. Okay, my housing. So I was the last person to fill a spot in this housing. So I was not in the same housing as Itzel. This one is called Shoemaker House, which I have a photo of on my phone. That is what it looks like. That's right after it snowed. So it is a over 200-year-old house. They estimated that it was built around 1812. It's a stone house. And my favorite thing about it is that it is 4 minutes away from headquarters. So when I was living and working in Tampa, I commuted an hour each way for work every day, which really sucked. So I was super, super happy to be able to have not only a quick commute, but being from Florida and not used to driving in, colder, icy, snowy conditions, it's made this time of year a lot more accessible, and I don't have to be super worried about when I get to work or anything like that. So this is the inside of my unit. That house itself has been converted. Obviously, it does not look like a 200-year-old house on the inside. It has now been turned into 4 efficiency style units. So you walk in on the first floor, there's unit 1 and 2. And then you go up the stairs and there's units 3 and 4. I'm in unit 4. And because it's kind of like the attic units, if you look online, it says that it's a 1.5-story house. So technically like the half floor is the upstairs. So you can see there's a little slant there, but the ceilings are still honestly really high. They only like slant on the edge. So there's a single bed in there. That big cupboard there is where I put my groceries and stuff. And then it opens up and props down to a desk. So if you need to get any work done, you can work from there. And there's drawers for storing other things. That's the little like kitchenette area where I do absolutely everything from, because it's the only table. But it's nice that it's furnished. So the place was furnished when I got there. Obviously, all the decorations I did myself. It's not going to look like that if you go there, but you can make it your own. And I highly recommend that you make your place cozy and comfortable because you're going to be there for a while. So definitely that's something that I enjoy coming home to is my cozy little corner that I have my own space. So that's my kitchen. Yes, it's small, but at least it's my own, which is nice. So if you were to be in the housing that it sells in, you're going to have a massive kitchen, 2 fridges, so much space. So nice visiting her over there. I was like, wow, you have so much space. But when I come back home, it's like at least I'm in my own little bubble and it's nice. So that's something that I really enjoyed. And then your own bathroom in there. The bathroom, honestly, the bathroom and closet is almost the same size as the whole unit itself. So very spacious bathroom and shower with a tub and parking there, plenty of space to park, which is also really nice. But yeah, so that's my unit. There is shared laundry, so once you go back down onto the first floor, you're gonna walk out to the balcony. We have like a patio balcony that overlooks like a little creek behind us. And then you go downstairs, downstairs, and then you can access the basement, cellar area where the washer and dryer are. So the only thing that you're gonna share if you are at Shoemaker House is washer dryer and then parking. But there's like space for at least 5 cars there. So if you have a visitor, one thing you want to keep in mind with this, since you are living on your own, you're not going to see your housemates, which is nice, but you do want to keep in mind that you're still being considerate. So if you're going to have anyone coming by or leave their car there for a certain period of time, just communicate that, shoot them a text, and whenever you do move in and you get a chance to come into contact with your neighbors, introduce yourself, exchange numbers just in case for emergencies, because you're going to be living on your own. And luckily here there is good cell service, but might not always be the case. And if you come into any emergencies, it's nice to have that. I did lock myself out during my first week. That was a whole thing. Itzel and I have shared locked ourselves out and in of things trauma from our first weeks there. But it's okay because we overcame that. And you know what? What a way to meet your neighbor for the first time besides being locked out of your car in your apartment. So that was fun. But I love living at Shoemaker. It's been really nice. So yeah, just keep in mind that if you move here, this could be one of the options, but you could also be in somewhere else. It really just depends. Like I said, when I moved in there, I was the fourth person. So I was living with 2 firefighters. They were in units above each other. And then below me is a CSA intern. So she is wrapping up this week or next week, I think. But the other firefighters, they concluded within the past couple weeks. So now it started off as a full house when I got there. And it's going to end up just being me for my last month. So it's always changing, but it is very nice that they do provide housing. You don't have to pay for anything. Utilities and all that is included. The heater works amazingly. It's been really nice, and the water gets super hot super fast, so keep that in mind. But yeah, I think that's everything for housing, and we can go to the next slide. Awesome. So working with EFTA has been honestly the best thing I've ever done in my life. It has not just like given me so much personal experience, but it's opened so many doors professionally, and it's given me a really great baseline. When I applied, I'm working on redoing my resume right now, and I've been looking at my old one, like cringing, like I can't believe I applied with that. It looks ugly, and it's like there's barely anything on it. And it's funny because it's like I was talking to my EFTA advisor Jose about this, and he was like, "Well, you applied with that, and it was able to get you a position with us. So obviously, it has stuff on there. But if you were to have finished your internship and felt like there was nothing to improve on your resume, then that's a problem. So if you're looking at your resume around and you don't really feel too confident about it, do not worry because I had like not much to say on it there as far as I did work at a plant." Nursery for the past 2 years, and I did my college internship there. But outside of that and volunteering, I didn't have a lot of other experience because my professional background is in animal care and training. So not much as far as let me work at a park, but I did have that interface with customers and kind of like having that visitor services aspect. So it is I'm pretty sure all of the EFTA programs are a lot just interacting with visitors. So as long as you are sociable to a point where you know you can convey things and you don't have to have confidence right out the door, you'll get that as you're here and you become more familiar with things. But I just think that being like honest and transparent, like, hey, like I just got here, I'm still learning things, but I'm going to help you the best I can. It's very good if you like interacting with people and if you're interested in education. My mom's a teacher. I've always kind of had a little interest in that. So being able to do that with various age groups. This is when you think of education, you're like, oh, I want to talk to little kids, but you're educating the masses, all different backgrounds and walks of life and all different types of people. So that's been really awesome. It's helped me build my own personal confidence with conveying information and things like that. As far as our responsibilities for LHIP specifically, like Itzel mentioned, those bi-weekly blogs. So if you're doing a 12-week internship, you'd be expected to do 6. I'm here for 20 weeks. But because of the shutdown and everything, it's probably going to come out to a little bit less than 10 blogs that I'm going to have finished. That webinar that we had, it does take place at the end or somewhat end of the around probably 10 weeks into it is when the webinar was held. So it's like a big workshop. It's 3 days long, and you're going to show your slides that you made and do an art project. That is something that LHIP does. I don't know if the other programs do. Is every intern will make an art project. It's voluntary, but it's highly recommended. I was super enthralled to hear that. So I did a painting of one of the waterfalls here, and you can either just make a painting or something. It doesn't even have to be a painting. You do a poem creation. You can honestly get really creative with it. They will send you supplies for painting, like canvases, brushes, and paint and stuff. But if you want to take it upon yourself to use your stipend or your own personal materials, go crazy and get really creative with it. It was really nice. That day of the webinar was my favorite because just seeing everyone's different interpretations, and it wasn't just like what does it mean to be Latino and to be in the park service, but just like what did they think about the park or just history about the park. A lot of the backgrounds in our cohort, it seemed to be like history majors and people like that, really into things. So you can get creative with that and keep that in mind. And then social media posts. So we got very, like I said, into that cerebral area during the shutdown when we were working remotely. We were still able to work and get paid, which was amazing, but just kind of focusing on things online. So making those blogs, but also creating social media content for EFTA to post in the coming future. And you're responsible to do check-ins with them at the beginning. You're going to have about like a weekly webinar for probably like the first month or two. I think it's about 6 or 7 webinars that you do. So that's like every week. Tends to be on Thursdays, but that could change obviously. And then it kind of wanes off for a bit every other week or maybe just once a month to check in. And you'll obviously maintain good communication with your supervisor. So you'll have your park supervisor and then your EFTA supervisor. So my park supervisor was Neil and my EFTA supervisor was Jose. So working with them has been awesome. They're both really great. But everyone at EFTA and I'm sure in the parks are awesome to work with as well. And just my reflection and takeaway from this, that working with LHIP has given me not only the opportunity to reflect on my own land culture and heritage, but to build, like I said, those professional and personal connections that have been so fulfilling. And EFTA, I like have so much to owe you guys. You guys are amazing, and it's been awesome working with them. They are so understanding and communicative and very just it's just been awesome. Honestly, like it's been great. And when I talk about you guys to other people, I'm like, oh my gosh, they're amazing. They've been awesome to work with. So if you have the opportunity to, like I said, your application, whatever you think your first choice place may be, you might end up somewhere totally different than that, and you might end up loving it way more than you possibly thought you could. So just keep an open mind, put your best foot forward, put whatever background you have and stuff into your resume, but don't worry if it's not as, nice as you want it to be, because if you do get the chance to work with them, you will be leaving with a much more emboldened background, both professionally and personally. So just thank you to the NPS and to EFTA for my 20-week internship. And yeah, thank you.
Nice, awesome. Thank you so much, Sophia, for sharing your experience, and glad to have you on for another month, which would be pretty awesome. At this time, I'll open it up. If anyone has any questions, feel free. You can type in the chat, or if you want to unmute, you definitely can. But if not, we'll wrap up here within the next 10 minutes or so.
I had a question.
Go for it.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rod. I was going to ask you guys, you got into a little bit, Sophia. How was it for you guys working during the shutdown? Because I see you guys like working a lot with the MPS, so I'm glad that there was still stuff for you guys to do. But I kind of wanted to ask you about that because I just experienced that for the first time. So, like everyone who worked in Interpret with the MPS, just really working during the shutdown.
I'm gonna just continue since I did speak a little bit on it there. So it was weird because we as interns were able to still keep working, but all of your coworkers that you see every day, they were not. So while the seasonal staff, they finished on the 29th and they ended and you said goodbye to them, I remember like looking forward, like the whole week before that, I was like, oh my gosh, like you guys are gonna leave, it's gonna be so weird coming into work and not seeing you there. And then they finished, and then the next day the shutdown happened and no one was coming into work at all. So the buildings are gonna be shut, everything's closed. The devices you're not supposed to use, so your personal devices, you're going to be able to work remotely from home. If you have internet, that's another thing you're going to be able to sort out with your supervisors, is where you're living. Are you going to have internet connection or whatnot? So Working remotely, it's going to turn into a lot of digital things. You are still going to be able to get paid, but now it's on you to make sure that you're still working those same amount of hours, which is really hard to do, especially if you thrive off of being in the workplace environment. I, at the end, nearing that, actually, when the seasonal rangers finished, I was able to fill a role of one of those, which was the volunteer coordinator assistant. So that is something that I've been like doing a lot of like online work for and stuff and putting in hours, but you can only do that once you get back into the office. So it accrued a lot, but also it took away a lot of the things that we had planned. Excel had a bunch of stuff planned. I had a bunch of stuff planned that was supposed to take place during that. So you lost a lot of the things that you were going to show for yourself and say, hey, I've been working on this, and it never got to come to fruition. But also you do have time to work on things like your PLC and other forms, and again, computer-based things that you can work at from outside, but still do those hikes and things on your own. Take photos. Oh my gosh, the biggest thing, take photos and videos when you're doing stuff all the time, because when you go to sit down and make those vlogs, you're going to want something to put in there. So yeah, if there is a shutdown in the time that you're doing an internship, my biggest suggestion that I wish I would have done is get out more and don't just be like, I have to stay home because the government shut down. Like, you can still go outside. And I wish I would have done that more. So yeah.
Anyone else have a follow-up? If not, I do see we have another question in the chat that says, can you describe how the Public Land Corps or the Direct Hiring Authority have supported your ability to secure positions within federal agencies? So I'll open it to the panelists first. If not, I can answer. At least for Public Land Corps or DHA, we've been able to remain consistent with our partners and working with them. I think that really applies more so for our interns as they're searching for positions. But I think the biggest thing that all of you mentioned was networking. Robert, I know you talked about networking and now you're working at Everglades. At first, he was an intern, and that was also a PLC eligible opportunity. So I think it also depends on the park if they have the capacity, the staffing, the needs, the resources, all of those sorts of things. So kind of a lot goes into it. But having those certificates definitely do help because it does give you priority once you've hit all your hours to be able to apply and then be recognized. But I would say the biggest thing is networking. So it also, I just think it really depends. When you're applying for different roles or organizations and what federal agencies you're looking at. But I think there's a lot of ways that can still help and enhance your experience and get you in or get a foot in the door at least.
I can add a little to that. I actually don't think I did my paperwork for my PLC. So it hasn't helped me at all. Um, but what I can say, and the information that I'll offer about the hiring process is that when you apply to a job, you get cut, every applicant or groups of applicants are cut into 100 bite-sized pieces. So your supervisor gets 100 names, right? So pretend there's 1,000 applicants, your supervisor gets 100 names and they get 10 pages of that. They have to go through every single name first in that first 100 pages before they can go into the second page. If you get your PLC or DHA, I believe it's called, that puts you into the first page automatically. There's other priority groups that put you into that page as well. Like, for example, if you have a disability, I believe, or if you're a veteran, that helps you and that puts you in that page. So I recommend, like, I have hearing loss, I need hearing aids. I am eligible to be in that group, right? No matter what. So, but if you're not in any of those or if you're not in any of those categories, so DHA, PLC, veteran, disability, and there's a couple of other categories. I think like current federal workers sometimes can get into that first 100 really easily. Then it's all by merit. So whoever has the best resume. Your goal doesn't matter. You don't want it doesn't matter if you're number one, doesn't matter if you're number 100. Your goal is to get to that first 100, and that's it. That way your resume can actually be looked at because once you're on that second page, your chances go down way, way more. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, that disability hiring is called Schedule A, which is a whole thing. However, I think a huge thing in that is networking the entire time that you were there. Like when I left and I was talking to my supervisors, I was like, "Would you rehire me?" And they went, "Without a thought." Like that's a big thing is to be able to be like, if you saw my name on that application, would you take me in? And if their answer is yes, you're good. But that takes a lot of work on your part to be a good person, and be reliable and those kinds of things.
I have a
Just
question.
add to oh, sorry. Um, just to finish, it'll be really quick. But yeah, I just wanted to say, like, yeah, the networking means everything. Like, if you go in there and you work and you put in a lot of effort and you talk to everybody, you meet everyone, you network, that gets you so far. I actually just found out a couple days ago that they are offering me the position, and it's just because I hung out with everybody, I talked to them, and when we went out to work together, I asked them questions and stuff, and I just made friends with them. So that means everything. And I sorry to interrupt. So go ahead.
My question is, after you're done with your internship, how does that look to like you guys are saying, people are reaching out to you. I guess what is more so like the step-by-step process to get there again?
Just I just to clarify, are you talking about what's the step-by-step process to get to the first internship or to get to the second internship
The
or
second
job or whatever?
internship or job, yeah.
Uh,
Like after you've
So,
already done one internship.
mm, so for me, and other people, feel free to chime in. For me, it looked like emailing my previous supervisor. Everglades is a winter park, and so I just happened to, winter seasonals happened to start hiring. So I just reached out to my current supervisor, or my previous back then, and I was like, "Hey, I put my name into this application. I would love to work with you again. It was so exciting. I had a great time, all that stuff." Sent, boom. I sent it to her boss, boom, and then I got messages like, "Oh my God, we'd love to have you," whatever. And that's honestly how it looked like. And then I applied to seasonal gigs. Seasonal gigs for the winter positions open October 27th of every year or like just around there, and make sure you're checking like around that date because those positions fill up so fast, they're gone the next day or they're gone in a couple of hours. So really, really try to apply to those positions as soon as they come up. I'm unsure of when the summer positions, or no, sorry, that's summer positions that open. They were open this past October, October 27th. Winter, I'm unsure. But I know now still some parks are hiring for or screening applicants for summer positions. So literally create a two-page resume. That's the new requirement now. Create a two-page resume and just apply to USA, any USA jobs, yes, applicants or application. I was forgetting the word. Apply to any of those, and yeah. And as far as EFTA, when I reapplied to EFTA to get to my second internship, I I think I just applied and they reached out to me, which I shouldn't have done. I should have applied or I should have reached out back to them. Um, but it's really good to getting into EFTA's good graces because, like I said, I was told like, oh, hey, this park is kind of busy. There's a lot of, or not busy, but there's a lot of like really competitive applicants. Are you interested in any other parks? And that's the only reason why I got all my experience in Glen Canyon and got to like get a bunch of life experience. So totally recommend reaching out to just EFTA or your previous internship to work with them again. Even if it's in like I applied for the mosaics in science. Unfortunately, that program got cut, but I still applied to it. It doesn't have to be the same exact program, but same company.
The USA job situation can look really daunting, but you're gonna do training on it and meetings, and you can ask. There are so many people to talk to about it. So don't, that's looks scary. It gets so much easier.
Sophia, go for it.
I wanted to mention, so obviously I'm still in my internship right now, but I know that EFTA we're hosting these webinars to help with the onboarding process of new interns. Um, you're also going to be able to still be in contact depending on the timing of your internship. Probably like being an intern while they're also looking for new interns. So they might even just mention while they're having check-ins with you, like, I think you'd be good for this and you should apply. Because once you have that kind of basis if they know you, they can trust you, and that you guys have a good relationship, they're going to be more interested in continuing to work with you rather than going with someone that they have no idea who they are or whatnot. And that's not to discourage new people whatsoever, but it's just to keep in mind that like while you are doing your internship, you might also find like the opportunity to do another one or continue at another time with them. So just always remain in good contact and communication, and have a good relationship with whoever your advisors are and your peers in your cohort.
Nice.
Thank you guys.
And then we have probably one of our final questions, unless there are any others, feel free to type it or mention it. But are there any specific classes, skills, or experiences that helped you succeed?
For my internship in particular, being half remote and half in person, independence and being able to be reliant on yourself, it's a skill that you will get better at, but having some kind of like base level of like, I can do this on my own. At a bare minimum for all of the internships, we do blogs, and that's one thing you need to keep yourself accountable for. Um, your supervisors are all online for EFTA, and so it can be a little bit tough, but finding those skills like Google Calendar or planners or whatever works for you is probably best.
I would say public. Oh, who was talking? I'm sorry. I was just gonna say public speaking. But yeah, just it's very social based. So maintaining yourself and also knowing that at the drop of a hat you could be from being with no people to a whole group of a family that's at your table, and being able to engage with them and give good information and give advice, directional advice. And you're gonna be new to the park, so being able to have like good like skills directionally. Thank goodness I'm very directionally gifted, so that was something for me to pick up rather easily. But if it's something or any skills that you know you're lacking in, just like working on those while you're here, or wherever it is that you're going to be at, making sure that you're able to work with the public really well, and be good. Like she's like, honestly, remote work it's not for everyone, and I learned that it's not really for me either. So you'll get an idea of what things you are good at and what things you want to stay away from. But definitely, you're going to want to be social to some degree. Yeah.
I'll also add on to that. I think a really underrated skill, or not even a skill, uh, something is passion. I did not get my job because of my first internship because of my qualifications. I got it because I was excited about working at the Everglades, where people think like, hey, mosquitoes, pythons, alligators, even though it's not that at all. I got it because of my passion. And I got it because I was excited in the interview. I literally like, I don't know what it's called. I had like I don't know. It was a really energizing conversation with my supervisor, and we started like geeking out. That's what I'm looking for. We literally started geeking out about how much how cool it is to teach people about the Everglades and how cool the Everglades is. And I really do think that's the reason why I got my job. And that kind of, got the ball rolling for me. Also, another really important skill, or not even important, just personality trait, but you can work on it, right? Is the willingness to learn. I like I said, I barely had any skills. I worked as a summer camp counselor. I think that's the closest thing that helped me get an education job. No real skill. I studied biology, no education, no nothing. And willingness to learn will help you build confidence, not only in whenever you're talking or interpreting, if you're not confident in public speaking or you're not that sociable, but willingness to learn also like rubs off on your supervisor. They get really excited when they see that you want to learn. They get really excited when they see that you're passionate about something and you're passionate about their job. Like, I think it's the biggest compliment to somebody if you get passionate about their job and you're like, I want to be you one day. And that rubs off really well and that looks great on you. So that's what I did on my interviews, and I'm here now. So
So is there anything? Trey,
Yeah.
you go with that.
First, so you go first, and I'll go after you.
Okay, sorry. Just really quick, there was, I mean, I know Robert, you touched on it before, but language skills are really useful to have. I also speak ASL, sorry, along with Spanish. So I speak three languages, and all three came in handy throughout this program for me. That's one thing that I would just advocate for in general. It's always just good to know something else. And then also being able to interact with all age groups, I think is really important, having experience in that. So like me personally, my mother is a kindergarten teacher, a bilingual teacher, and so growing up around that, being in the classroom since I was a kid, helping other kids, like that really helped me a lot. And one of my fondest memories from the park is when we did the Festival of Wood, which Sophia had those pictures of us interacting with some of the public there. One of my fondest memories was getting these gifts. I don't know if you guys can see them. Oh, probably not. But it's a little rainbow fish, a little piece of wood with the girl's name written on it, and a little leaf with the girl's name written on it. Um, and the colored fish was actually from Neil's daughter, who came to the event, but they gifted me those during that event. And just having those kind of interactions is just, I think, so important to really getting all that's worth out of the program, having that kind of interactions, and especially with the volunteers are usually older, so being able to interact a lot with the older groups as well. I also have a background in volunteering with nursing homes and things like that. So I would really recommend just, you know, be open to talking to any age group and have know how to interact with each age group.
Yeah, so I was gonna say it's really cool hearing everyone's like different skills and abilities because they're all so unique. So that just goes to show like wherever you have personally like your experiences, like find out what you can use to put on your resume. Find out like what experiences you have that make you unique, and use that because yeah, it could be so many different things. And if you don't have much skills, doing that or much like experience doing the work that you want to do, go volunteer because that's the quickest way to get some experience. Every hour is going to count. Um, I think for me, if I were to have a year of experience, then that kind of got me farther on my resume rather than having 11 months. And since the internship was only 11 months, I was able to make up that other month out of just volunteer experience. And then that got me farther, or at least that's what my supervisor was saying. Like, yeah, we have to make sure that you get a year of experience. It does something in the internals, I don't know, the HR, where that kind of boosts your resume. So yeah, go work, get out there and see if this is something that you really like too. Because then you'll know if you really want this job or not, and then you'll know that you'll be passionate about it. And then yeah, show them that.
Very nice. All right, Liz, do you have a question? And then I'll probably have one or two of you take it. If not, we'll end.
My question is right now, or for a little bit, I've been learning ASL, so I have a bit of skill in that too. I'm not like expert in it though. Would you say that's something worth putting down in a resume or under skills, even if I'm not fully there yet?
I would say 100%. I put novice for mine because I learned it in high school, and a lot of it I did forget. But I know the basics for conversational, the bare basics. Hi, my name is. How can I help you? Answer some other questions. But I would definitely say just be honest with what your actual skill level is for, the reading, writing, and actually speaking portion of it.
To add to
Uh,
that, sorry, for L, if you're looking at like the LHIP program and maybe you do have like Latin background, but you're not fluent in Spanish, do not let that deter you from applying whatsoever. There was plenty of people in our cohort, including myself, who are not fluent in Spanish. So even if you have a basic conversational understanding of it, definitely don't let that make you feel like you can't apply for LHIP because some places they obviously want someone who is going to be able to be fluent. But if there's two people at your park and one of them is, in my case, itself was, so it was able to allow me to be an intern here knowing that they're not going to look at me and be like, you need to be fluent, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't. And that's another thing, be so honest. Like that's one of my biggest attributes, is just being like very honest, almost like to a fault. You want to communicate clearly, like I don't want you guys expecting something of me that I can't provide, but I also do have these skills and I want you to be aware of that. So before I signed my like the paper when you start, I forget what it's called, but before I even signed that, I spoke to the people at EFTA and I said, I want to make sure you guys understand what my skills are because I don't want you expecting more of me than I'm going to be able to provide. And obviously it's something that I'm going to work on during my internship, but I don't want you guys expecting me to come in knowing how to do all these things that I can't. So if you have any background in various languages, it's definitely worth putting on your resume, but also don't let that deter you from applying to certain programs in EFTA.
Robert, did you want to add anything?
I just wanted to say, 100%. My German is so bad. It's like a kindergarten's level German. And I still put it. I don't remember the term that I used. I might have used novice or somewhat conversational. I don't know. Always useful to put a language. Most of the time, I will say ASL. I'm fluent in ASL. I'm literally born and raised speaking it, and I've never used it. Working in Arizona or the Everglades. Granted, the Everglades, I'm working with school groups. So typically I'm not working with anybody with special needs because they need to come out here in the Everglades. And special needs can get in the way of that. National parks aren't always accessible, and that's not great, but we're working on it. So yeah, always put it. Why not? It helps. It helps.
Great advice. Thank you so much to our panelists, and thank you all again for joining. I'm going to end this recording now, but also we'll have another webinar coming up next week on Wednesday, same time on the 16th. That one will be over submitting your application. So stay tuned if you're interested in that. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, internships at environmentamericas.org, and contact us there. But also, just have a wonderful rest of your week. Have a wonderful holiday season and enjoy December. And thank you all again for joining.
Thank you. You guys have a good one. Thank you.
Have
Thank
a
you,
good one.
everyone.
Thank you so
Bye
much.
bye.